Georgiana Cavendish raised her husband William's love child like she was her own. But when Georgiana got pregnant after having an affair, William gave her a twisted ultimatum. Famous for her iconic hairstyles, lavish soirees, and political activism, Georgiana Cavendish was the toast of the town. But the high society beauty faced personal challenges in her marriage, along with rumors of affairs, and struggled with a gambling problem. Like her tragic descendant, Princess Diana, the Duchess of Devonshire led both a charmed and a challenging life. Georgina Spencer was called Dear Little G by her family. As a young girl, she knew nothing but comfort and love. Her family was wealthy, and her parents enjoyed a very happy marriage. As the first daughter of an important family, Georgina was a serious catch. The heiress's beauty also brought her bonus points on the marriage market. With her long auburn hair, fair skin, and almond-shaped eyes, it's not surprising she had her choice of suitors. When Georgina was still a teenager, William Cavendish, the 5th Duke of Devonshire, came to call on her. While the Duke's wealth and status certainly appealed to her family, Georgina found herself drawn to him for emotional reasons. Sadly, that choice would only bring her heartache. The Duke reminded Georgina of her father. Like Viscount Spencer, he was shy and reserved. But while the Viscount was shy and kind, the same could not be said of the Duke. He could not be described as kind, especially toward his future wife, and he would break young Georgina's heart. After dancing with her new suitor at various balls, Georgina quickly became enamored with the idea of marrying the Duke. Seeing her daughter so giddy, Georgina's parents felt their daughter was about to get the best of both worlds. Not only had their daughter caught the eye of England's most eligible bachelor, but the young couple actually seemed fond of each other as well. Tragically, they were so wrong. The Duke proposed, but for all the wrong reasons. He wanted Georgina for her social position and her youth. He believed that even if he didn't care for her now, she was young enough for him to mold her into his ideal wife. After the couple married, everything changed, and not for the better. First, the Duke abandoned his new bride to go out partying just 3 days after their wedding. Then, when the couple was scheduled to be presented to the Queen, he arrived 4 hours late. Not exactly a great start to this high society marriage. Georgina wrote desperate letters to her mother, begging for advice about how to interest her husband. But her husband would rather go hunting or gamble all night with his friends than spend time with his wife. Only a few months earlier, Georgina was the most eligible woman in England. Now her own husband barely looked at her. Though he didn't notice her, everyone else certainly did. The Duchess became England's first it girl. She sparked outrageous fashion trends, like her 3-foot-high hairstyles adorned with enormous ostrich feathers. Society women tripped over themselves to imitate Georgina, even sitting on the floor of carriages to accommodate their extraordinarily high hairs. The Duchess even made some shocking fashion choices. At a time when noble women were expected to wear heavy gowns and tightly fitted corsets, Georgina took inspiration from her friend, Queen Marie Antoinette, and chose something far simpler. She stepped out in the chemise alerin, or the Queen's dress, a flowing, lightweight gown that was both comfortable and daring for the era. The gown was considered delicate and informal. It was a bold statement, a break from tradition, and one that sparked plenty of commentary among England's elite. But Georgina wasn't just a pretty face with a daring sense of fashion. She was an avid reader and writer. She wrote poetry and published scandalous novels. After marrying the Duke, Georgina was constantly out on the town shopping, going to plays and parties. But the Duchess didn't have to go out to party. Her wildest nights were spent at home, where she partied and gambled all night long. According to her friends, the Duchess would sometimes party for days, only to then withdraw completely, avoiding visitors and staying home. Her mood would fluctuate, quiet and withdrawn in the mornings, and then often gambling late into the night. She also struggled with substance use and neglected to take care of herself during these times. Historians believe that the Duke's distaste for Georgiana can be chalked up to three factors. First, he was naturally cold and unresponsive. Second, he and Georgiana were very different and had different interests, but the last reason was perhaps the most shocking explanation. The Duke was having a romance with Charlotte Spencer, a hatmaker with no relation to Georgiana's family, despite the weird coincidence of their identical last names. It seemed that with Charlotte, the Duke was interested and even passionate. Eventually, the couple had a daughter together named Charlotte Williams. In letters to her mother, Georgiana tried to hide her misery with the Duke, but behind closed doors, her life was falling apart. Georgiana's out-of-control lifestyle had terrible consequences. The young Duchess suffered multiple miscarriages. This angered her husband and made her already tense marriage even more unbearable. As the wife of a nobleman, she was expected to bear an heir, and it seemed that Georgiana couldn't fulfill her duty. In April 1776, a heavily pregnant Georgiana reached a breaking point. Her gambling had gotten out of control, and she was in severe debt. But she felt too terrified to tell her husband and ask for the funds she so desperately needed. Georgiana's plan was to wait until she gave birth, and while the Duke basked in the glow of his newborn son, reveal her predicament. Unfortunately, everything went terribly wrong. Georgiana went into labor early, and heartbreakingly the baby did not make it. Paralyzed by indecision and grief, the Duchess felt completely stuck, leading a friend to intervene and ask her parents to bail her out. They were furious, but they agreed. However, they had a terrible demand. Georgiana had to come clean to the Duke. While the Duchess confessed that she had amassed the equivalent of roughly $300,000 in debt, the Duke's response was cold and distant. Without saying much, he left the room and quietly arranged for the money to be sent to her family. He offered no comfort, no conversation. He barely even acknowledged her distress. It was a defining moment for Georgiana. It was now clear that her marriage was never going to work. Several years into their marriage, the Duke and Duchess still had no heir. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, the Duke shared a secret with Georgiana. He had a daughter from a previous relationship. With little ceremony, he asked Georgiana to prepare a room for his daughter, Charlotte, who would be coming to live with them. The Duke had decided to bring her to their home. It was perhaps one of the rare times he showed a sense of responsibility, but Georgiana was left to deal with raising someone else's child. While visiting the city of Bath in 1782, Georgiana met a woman who would bring her both great joy and heartbreak. Lady Elizabeth Bess Foster was living through a very difficult chapter in her life as well. After separating from her husband, she was unable to retain custody of her own children. The two women formed an immediate and powerful bond brought together by their shared struggles. They quickly became the best of friends. Georgiana, known for her passionate nature and vivid imagination, was deeply moved by Bess's story. The Duchess, ever generous and kind, didn't just invite her new friend for a visit. She welcomed her into her home to live alongside her and the Duke. It was an act of kindness, and it would have devastating consequences. Not long after Bess moved in, tensions within the household escalated. A close relationship began to form between Lady Elizabeth Foster and the Duke, and it soon became romantic. The situation grew increasingly complicated. Historians still debate Bess's intentions. Was she simply a woman seeking stability during a vulnerable time? Or had she seen an opportunity in Georgiana's kindness? Georgiana was not blind to the situation that had developed. She soon realized what was happening between her husband and her close friend. And yet, she allowed the unusual arrangement to continue. Isolated within her marriage and yearning for connection, Georgiana couldn't bear to lose the emotional support Bess provided, even under such painful circumstances. In time, the town whispered about their unorthodox household, but Georgiana quietly endured this humiliation. Some historians have also suggested that Georgiana's bond with her lifetime friend, Elizabeth Foster, may have gone deeper than friendship. Based on the heartfelt tone in many of her letters to Bess, some scholars believe Georgiana may have had romantic feelings for her. While nothing can be confirmed for certain, these theories suggest that part of the reason Georgiana clung to Bess so tightly was that she may have been in love with her friend. There's another detail that possibly confirms this theory. Bess may not have been the first woman to capture Georgiana's heart. In 1777, the Duchess developed a strong connection with Mary Graham, another celebrated beauty of the time to whom Georgiana wrote several deeply affectionate letters. In 1783, Georgiana experienced one of the happiest moments of her life, the birth of her first child. She named her daughter Lady Georgiana, affectionately known as Little G, and proudly chose to nurse her baby herself, an unusual decision among aristocrats at the time. 2 years later, her second daughter, Harriet, nicknamed Harry, joined the family, and at long last, in 1790, Georgiana gave birth to a son, William George Spencer Cavendish. The long-awaited arrival of a male heir brought an enormous sense of relief and fulfillment to the family. In Georgiana's time, things got a lot easier for a noblewoman once she gave birth to a legitimate heir. First and foremost, it meant she no longer had to endure the risks that came with repeated childbirth, but it also meant a bit more personal freedom. It became more acceptable, though certainly only in private, for a duchess to enjoy herself a little, and maybe even share a romantic moment with someone other than her cold and distant husband. Soon, Georgiana met Charles Grey, a rising star in the Whig political party. It's hard to say exactly when Georgiana and Grey's romantic relationship began, but we know for certain that by 1791 it had become serious. That year, Georgiana became pregnant, and the child wasn't her husband's. The Duke was livid. In response, he sent Georgiana away to France, insisting that she give birth in private, far from the eyes of British society. In 1792, Georgiana welcomed a daughter, Eliza Courtortney, while living abroad. While the birth happened without complications, the emotional toll was terrible. Despite the fact that Georgiana had lovingly embraced and raised the Duke's daughter from a previous relationship and treated her as part of her own family, he wasn't willing to offer the same understanding. Instead, he issued a chilling ultimatum. He told Georgiana that unless she handed over baby Eliza to be raised by Charles Gay's family, he would file for divorce and ensure she'd never see their children ever again. Faced with an impossible decision, Georgiana let Eliza go. The two would have only very limited contact throughout their lives. From Eliza's point of view, the arrangement seemed completely normal. She believed Georgiana was a kind family friend or distant relative, someone like a loving aunt. And as for Charles Grey, Eliza grew up thinking he was her much older brother. When the Duke banished Georgiana to France, he not only made her give up her daughter, she also had to say goodbye to the only man she had ever loved. When writing about the end of her relationship with Charles Grey, Georgiana said that I have in leaving him forever left my heart and soul. After Georgiana gave birth to Eliza and broke off her relationship with Grey, the Duke still wasn't satisfied. He demanded that his wife stay abroad in Europe, effectively banishing her to a permanent European vacation. But clearly, the whole experience influenced Georgiana to change her life. When the Duchess finally returned to England in 1793, she gave up her hard partying ways and turned to more respectable pursuits. In her later years, Georgiana was involved in politics, but stayed behind the scenes. She also dabbled in the sciences, collected crystals, wrote novels and poems, and spent time with her beloved children. Evidently, Georgiana also rose to saint-like levels of charity, because when the Duke contracted gout, she cared for him despite everything he had done to her. While Charles Grey certainly loved Georgiana while they were together, even he dealt her a cold-hearted betrayal. He blamed Georgiana for all the trouble with her husband, and even became engaged without letting Georgiana know. But Georgina, who had decided to be the most forgiving woman ever, managed to let this betrayal go. In time, she and Gray even became friends. In her late 30s, Georgina received an odd blessing. After an eye infection left the Duchess half-blind and plagued by facial scars, her reputation as a great beauty seemed to be over. But instead of bemoaning her looks, Georgina felt liberated. After all, it was kind of cathartic to no longer have to live up to all those expectations. For all the progress Georgina made in society and in her personal growth, she still had one major vice she just couldn't quite shake: gambling. Even into her 40s, she was still struggling with it. Once even reaching out to her mother for financial help when things got out of hand. It was something Georgina felt deeply ashamed of. But soon, that battle would be overshadowed by something much more serious. What no one knew at the time was that the Duchess was quietly battling a serious illness. On March 30th, 1806, Georgina, Duchess of Devonshire, died suddenly of an abscess on her liver. She was 48 years old. While it made sense that her children would be devastated and mourned their mother's passing, someone else's response was surprising. After a mostly miserable marriage, the Duke seemed genuinely sad to lose the wife he had so mistreated and ignored. After Georgina passed away, her daughter Eliza learned who her real parents were. When she did, her response was incredibly touching. She honored the woman she'd always known as kind and caring by naming her own daughter Georgina, a quiet and powerful tribute to the mother she never really got to know. Georgina's life has some striking parallels with that of her great-great-great-grandniece, Princess Diana. Both women married older men whose hearts seemed to be elsewhere, and while they were adored by the public, they often felt isolated in their marriages. They also faced harsh treatment from the aristocracy and struggled under the weight of high society's expectations. Thanks for watching History Expose. If you love uncovering the best stories in history, hit like and subscribe to keep exploring with us. Don't forget to visit our main page, FactNate, for more incredible facts about everything.